reason why this panel is last, it's all about distribution. And the whole idea here is that we've been talking a lot about content creation. It started out this morning with Michael Eisner talking about how he made his move from traditional to digital. We've talked about the creative process and how we fit marketers into that process. I'm sure that the colleagues I have with me here today would agree that one of the most important things we can do is to make sure that this content actually gets out to a wide group of people so that people see it, and obviously the marketers that are embedded into it get the return on their investment that we need. We have people who are representing very different parts of the distribution world up here. Matt is a syndicator in terms of he does work with content creators, and he brings that content to a wide audience through syndication relationships that he builds. We'll talk a bit about that as we go. Jason, obviously with MySpace, is essentially representing the new network or the new portal in the digital space, and that is not in any way to take away from the old networks and the other current networks that we have, but he represents that. And Fred is both a content creator but also a distributor, because obviously the creative that he develops, the content that he develops needs to get distributed to a wide audience, so he has a lot of thoughts about that. So I'd actually like to start with you, if I could, and just talk about can you talk a little bit about how you ensure that your content gets out to the right audience? Because it's got to be pretty critical that the right people see it.
Absolutely. Well, the very basis of our company started a couple of years ago. As video started becoming enabled through the internet, I fell back on the notion that has always been true, which is new mediums demand new brands. And our company decided that what it needed to do was launch new brands. But unlike, let's say, the cable television world of 25 years ago, where you knew that if you got distribution, you would have a fixed audience, we knew that everyone had distribution available to them, and in a certain weird way, though we were available to everybody, no one had any audiences. And that what we needed to really do is figure out, first and foremost, who and where are the audiences, and is there talent and programming available for them in their space? And if there's not, that maybe there was an opportunity for us to create for them. So interestingly, we started from the very basis of not thinking about distribution at all, and thinking about what communities had self-formed on the internet. We knew if there was a community that was underserved, and we were super serving them with branded kind of content, that we would have an audience built in. And from there, we could expand our distribution into what has now become more standard distribution partners, like MySpace, like YouTube, Yahoo, AOL, College Humor, whoever it might be, broadband. Wherever we could go, we knew that we would already win because our community had embraced and fallen in love with the programming.
Right, and so as you started developing it, what were some of those niches that you were finding?
Well, we started immediately because of previous business interests in automotive and in animation. And I launched Channel Frederator with my partner Emil Rensing. He launched VOD Cars. We distributed them on iTunes literally the week before the video iPod went out. And within a month, we had 1 million downloads and knew that we were onto something. And in fact, it was the beginning of Next New Networks, because we said, gee, if we could do this 100 more times, we would have a business that brands and advertisers would be interested in. From there, we decided to build more automotive, more entertainment, but we also started looking at political and people-oriented content, things that were already starting to gather through blogging on the web and a variety of other things. We started looking at humor as a category, and we've looked at everything from sports to brides to jewelry to internet stuff, internet culture. And some have been more successful, some have been less successful. But all in all, everything we launched was embraced by a community first and then expanded out into the web in various distribution outlets.
So it's a great segue to ask a similar question to Jason, because when you're talking about community, obviously there aren't many larger communities with a number of smaller communities within it than in MySpace. So when you guys have a piece of content that you've either developed yourself or you've done a deal to distribute, how do you make sure that it gets seen by the right viewers? And from that question, I actually mean specifically, like, how do you make that happen?
Sure. Well, lucky for us that on every page of the site there's marketing and promotional real estate. So we can take a piece of content and feature it on the homepage if we want. We also have hundreds of millions of user homepages, which is the home base for most of our audience. And we know who these people are because they offer up that information. So we can hyper-target content to them. We do it a lot via promotional ads where we can define demographics or enthusiast categories such as sports, music, entertainment, and drill down to even specific bands and TV shows that we think the audience is right for and hit them both from an editorial standpoint with video content as well as through our promotional creative to make sure that it's hitting the right audience.
So when you do a deal, you're doing a deal with a marketer, or you're doing a deal with a content developer that has a marketer embedded in, obviously in order to get that right audience on it is important, but it's also important to make sure that you deliver on that audience. So as we start talking a little bit about pricing and how that all works out, how do you make sure that you hit those numbers, and do you guarantee certain basements of viewership to your clients?
Yeah, I mean, in respect to that, there's three things we try to achieve. That's traffic, engagement, and awareness. And it's important to note that we're a social network first, community first, and my team's job is to bring video to that community and community elements back into video, because that's the heart and soul of what we do at MySpace. So we're not just a video site, and as a result of that, we're able to create programs either via our licensed partners or even for some originals where the video viewing is the catalyst, but it's not the whole piece of the pie. And a good example of that is earlier this year we did a series called Roommates, and it was not only comprised of 60 webisodes, but it also, all the characters in the series had their own MySpace character pages. And so there was, as far as awareness and engagement, we were actually able to tie the story on not just the linear webisodes, but also the activity that was going on these character profile pages, which included music, vlogs, commenting, all that stuff. And turns out that we had about 13.5 million views of the Roommates series and another 1.5 million views of the characters' vlogs. And we tied that all together with our sponsors, Ford and SIBA, and allowed them to have engagement and involvement across the whole way. So we're not just selling the video or the ad, we're selling integration, we're selling community, we're selling co-branded ads all across the site, because truthfully, that's what people are coming to us for. Video is a hot piece, and it's something that a lot of them want to be involved in, but we also have an amazing music community, and we also have a huge IM product, and we also have a large comedy area, and so we're able to kind of tie those pieces all together and then guarantee minimum impressions and exposure across all those assets.
Right. So not to say that your distribution is all about quantity, but because I know it's about quality and targeting as well. But I was just talking to Jordan Bitterman from Shorn before, and Cube Fabulous is a program that you guys did together. Got over 200 million views. So my question to you would be about scale. We talked about the quality, but what about scale? How do you get that kind of scale? 200 million is a huge number. I mean, we're talking about primetime broadcast in a lot of ways there.
I liken broadband today as perhaps cable television in its earliest phase. What we're enjoying right now is a wealth of time periods, open time periods. For major broadcasters and content providers in the TV and syndication markets, that's a fantasy. What you hear a lot today in television today is those time periods are scarce and hard to find. The web gives us a wealth of time periods. Right now we have thousands and thousands of sites that are rich in text but are desperate for video content. And what we're trying to do is open up that inventory to get scale, so that by the virtue of the scale we create, we can then get more narrow and targeted. So it really, for us in our company, it really starts with scale. We rolled up and aggregated many sites so that we can provide that to our advertisers, and fortunately today we can get more strategic and more targeted.
So obviously for all of our marketing clients and the colleagues across all of our agencies, I mean, I think what would really be interesting to them is to talk a little bit about pricing and what the guidelines are around pricing. I think it's safe to say, before I put anyone on the spot, that as an industry, we're trying to figure out the pricing question. We haven't really figured that out quite yet. But having said that, what kinds of things are you guys seeing? We can start with you, Matt, but what you're seeing in terms of the pricing that gets passed along to the marketers.
That's not what you told me last week.
Oh, shoot.
Pricing is really matured. It's funny, as nascent as an industry as we are, pricing, I think, has really matured actually over the last year in particular, in the last couple of years. In the earliest part of the industry, in the early days of the early 2000s, I'm looking at Rashad Tabakawala when we did our first upfront with Starcom, and when we started to press what scale was there on the web, we were looking at very what would be deemed premium pricing, and at the time it didn't feel sustainable. The reason it didn't feel sustainable is because who are the largest broadband buyers today? They're the TV buyers. They're the same TV shops and agencies and clients who are all looking at Nielsen squad reports and paying CPMs that run in a certain range. So what we're seeing today is a graduation or an evolution into what looks like a normalization of those rates. And that range is really running between, on one far end, the user-generated content, and on the extreme other end, this great premium content that's being born today. So I think it's starting to shape up, and I think that spells good things for us in the future.
So for all the bloggers out there, you're saying that prices are coming down.
That's what you told me.
All right, okay. Jason, from your perspective on pricing, I mean, how do you guys look at it? Do you bundle it as part of a bigger deal that includes both advertising and will get your content on the air to a certain number, or can you just buy it based on content distribution?
You can buy specifically video. What we're seeing most often is, because we sometimes liken ourselves to a Vegas resort where you go with your friends, and one person's at the pool, one person's gambling, one person's shopping, and one person's eating, but they're all doing it on the same property. And that's what MySpace is. I think we're approximately 73 million uniques in the U.S. Last month, and everyone's doing different things. So most often, buyers will come to us where a video content may be the centerpiece of a deal, but it's not the whole thing. So we kind of create an overall CPM based on video views, co-branded units, other media around the site that's promoting either the show or their own messaging, and tie it all together. It's available to do it on a just per video basis, but we're seeing a lot of people, that's the opportunity that they can have with MySpace, so they're taking advantage of it.
Fred, I mean, you're in this unique seat. It's a very unique seat. But you're a buyer and a seller.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the deals that you put together as you're implementing, or integrating, I should say, the marketer into those deals? How's that going?
Well, it's going fantastically, because the truth is, as everyone here knows, we're all making it up as we go along. And to really believe that there is a solution right now is to just sort of be walking through things blindly. There is no solution. And every single day, creative people are sitting down with marketers, figuring out new ways to do things. And whatever we figured out today will probably be out of date tomorrow, as technology starts to reinvent itself literally every day. I mean, in the last 2 panels ago, Albie Heck called for someone to please come up with a way of measuring things like engagement. The truth is, none of us can even agree on what measurement is in this medium. And so what we look at it from our perspective is, what we're all about is delivering very defined audiences who are in love with programming, where we have been able to prove week after week, month after month, loyalty and engagement by the fact that we can tell how many people are returning to our programming. We can see how much growth per network, per show, per, in our case, hubs of related programming are involved. And the pricing ends up being what it is the marketer is looking for, and how much they believe that the audience is in love, not only with what we're offering, but how much the marketer is in love with that audience and is looking for something specific.
So you told me recently, I thought it was a really interesting story about at MTV back in the early 80s. there was no pricing strategy necessarily, similar to what Matt was just talking about, and there wasn't necessarily the measurement in place. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that might have been a predictor of where we are now? Or?
Well, you know, the first 2 or 3 years of what we'll call the modern cable era, starting in 1980, there was no measurement. And the truth was we started by just measuring how many homes we had sort of official distribution deals with. But I'll tell you, interestingly, we announced the day we went on the air at MTV that we had 3 million homes. What it really was is we had deals in 3 million homes, and we were only in 500,000 homes for the first month. So we ran a contest, the one night stand with Journey. You and 3 friends, you and 3 friends can get a Learjet ride to a faraway Journey concert, have dinner with the band, and watch from backstage. And the only way you could enter, there were no 900 numbers, there were no phone systems that really could handle any kind of volume. It was by sending in a postcard. Within 3 weeks, we got 90,000 postcards on what was really 500,000 homes distributed. So we walked around with bags of postcards to advertisers, and we would just dump the postcards on their desks. And I want to say that Pepsi was the first one that we signed with, but my memory, I'm old, it was a long time ago. But those bags of postcards were our metering system for the first few years. The truth is that a lot of the advertisers, the senior people on the brands had no idea what we were talking about. The junior media buyers were all watching MTV themselves, and sometimes the sons and daughters of the senior people were using our product at home, or, by the way, going to mom or dad and going, you know, I know you're really connected in the media. Do you think you could talk the cable operator into running MTV? Well, you know, the truth is, in this environment that we're in now, the same kind of thing is happening, except sort of opposite, which is, once again, the senior people don't know what's going on, and their kids are coming to them. I had a situation literally just the other day where the writer of one of the biggest media newsletters came over to my office. I've known her for 20 years. And her son had just come in. He's 14, goes to school here in New York, and said, Mom, I discovered the greatest place for new animation. It's Channel Frederator. And the mom just started going off into gales of laughter. And she said, well, you know, Eli, he's known you since the day you were born. You know, you know each other already. And he didn't know. And all of a sudden, people are introduced to these new products in the exact same way it was back in the day.
Yep. We have about 5 minutes left, and I just want to shift gears a little bit here. A lot of people have been predicting, and it's been written about in the press, that sort of the death of the network, so to speak. And I think when they write that, they talk about the death of the broadcast network. And in many cases, obviously, there's an analogy here to, do we need to actually have content in a centralized space, or can it be just ported out everywhere? Matter of fact, there's some statistics I took down here. Broadcast ratings for the May sweeps in 08 was down 10% versus the same time in 07. Cable ratings up 9%, talking about people going over to obviously a much more targeted media for them. 25% of U.S. households are time shifting. 43% have watched TV programs online, and digital video, and I love this one, 533 million hours were viewed online in March 08. And obviously that's just TV program plus. And I promise my Amex clients I will get you sources on those. So I'd love to ask all of you, we'll start with Jason, do you agree with the death of the network? Is this something that's just a complete misnomer?
I think death is a strong word to be used at this early stage. I think it's more of an evolution. I think that the audience is demanding it, and guys like us and everyone here today are helping push it forward finally. We're about allowing users to define their entertainment, and that is no longer just meaning watching a TV show, watching a movie, listening to music. Entertainment to them is watching videos, while listening to music, while blogging, while IMing, all that to them is entertainment. And so we are looking to be a unique storytelling platform along the way. And I think as a result of that, everyone's just looking at things a little differently. I still think it's a great way to reach a mass audience in a glamorous and glitzy way. But I think what's happening is that it's not enough for a lot of people, especially a younger audience. They might want to watch, you know, Lost, but then they want to go deep into those characters, and now being able to watch those shows on websites, on nice screens, in HD, and being right there, being able to touch those characters, I think it's just telling everyone about how we define stories, you know. Who says 22 minutes or 44 minutes or 120 pages of a script? That has to be the way. I think the audience will determine that, and you know, we're just trying to be lifeguards to that, and I think it's a great opportunity for all of us here because we're at a point where we can help define it and mold it and evolve it in a way that makes sense for all of us rather than be forced into something that's been there for a long time.